Alright everyone, I have my robe of protection on to protect me from the coronavirus. I figure that it's, helpful. I have to do spells of darkness and infernal lunacy later in order to keep myself from sliding into the abyss, because then I'd be with Hillary Clinton and that would become a problem. Big news of the day, it's not even like the disease update, because Hillary Clinton lacks self-awareness so often that she becomes funny, and I'm not even sure whether it's always satirical. When she does this, when she says weird political shit, it's hard for me at this point sometimes to tell if she's being tongue-in-cheek about her own self and the perception of her as being out of touch and corrupt and weird, because if you look at her Twitter, it's a laundry list of her saying, Trump is corrupt, this person's corrupt, we must snuff out corruption. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton is one of the most unlikable, perceivedly most corrupt individuals within politics. People constantly remark upon Epstein in every post that she makes. That being said, she's half right. Let me explain this to the Bernie bros, because 99% of you aren't Vermonters. Let me explain you something about Bernie Sanders. When Hillary Clinton ruminates on the fact that he's humorless, the problem is the way in which she posed what she said was, nobody likes Bernie Sanders. That's all anyone got from it. Bernie bros go crazy, goes over their head because they don't look at the broader context. She discussed in this documentary material that went viral the other day, she discussed the fact that people have trouble working with Sanders because he's humorless and he's not given over to any form of frivolity whatsoever. He's just a stick in the mud. Having a grumpy old man candidate aside, and how funny that would be to go up against somebody bombastic like Trump, which would be like night and day watching them debate, she's partially right. As a Vermonter, I've literally seen Bernie Sanders around, so to speak. He does get out of D.C. once in a while. He never smiles. Now, if other candidates, like when Clinton, had this problem of being perceived of as humorless, it was asked of her. She used the sexism card to sort of quell people asking that, but we've been asking a long time within culture, and I know that this isn't a broader policy platform. I know that this isn't politics, this is perception, but perception matters. Can we please be honest? I know Bernie bros a lot of the time don't understand this. You can think your ideology is all that matters and it's all encompassingly important and, it's save the children, feed the poor and stuff, and you don't want the candidate necessarily to not take it very seriously, but the perception is not as good on the ground as the reality you conjure in your mind. The perception of a candidate as humorless is not a good thing for them. It's bad optics. This has been true over and over again. Mitt Romney was perceived of as being humorless. John McCain was perceived of as humorless. John Kerry was perceived of as humorless. Al Gore certainly was perceived as humorless. The loser is usually perceived as less humorous than the winner. Now, sometimes, does this, in a broader sense, does this matter? No. George W. was perceived as a chucklehead and sort of a harmless oaf, and he's kind of funny. He's sort of like a circus monkey or something. And this in part helped him to win. Not that there was much of a choice in 2004 anyway. Of course, he was a genocidal warmonger and a despot, so there's definitely a trade-off. But the idea is this. Hillary Clinton is not technically wrong when she points out that it's hard to work with a person who never laughs or smiles, who is single-mindedly interested in discussing finer philosophical points and serious business, who is not given over to ever being calm for a moment. It would be difficult, even if you perceive that as a virtue and you say, well, that's because he's working hard for the working man, which is bullshit, but that's how the Bernie bros will cast it off as. In order to work with others and accomplish anything for the poor, you're going to need to work with Congress, which Bernie Sanders has a shitty track record of being able to do, by the way, even in party. Work with Congress, work with bureaucratic officials. Bernie Sanders, ever since he's been mayor of Burlington, which doesn't really count, he's never held an executive position. He's a legislature for life. He's been in the House and the Senate long term. Mayor of Burlington in the 1970s doesn't really count, does it? I think that he would be out of his element if he was president of the United States. I think he would be another Jimmy Carter, do a piss-poor job, be a one-termer, maybe die in office at his age and with his health, and it'd be a problem. But Hillary Clinton, because she's dumb, she didn't explain it this way. She should have come out and been a little bit more gentle about it, but the problem is, because she's such sour grapes about the goddamn 2016 election. Nobody takes her seriously. Even people that are sort of on the fence who might say, well, yeah, she's right. Yeah, he is a little bit on the humorless side. And, what does that say about him more broadly as a person? Actually, some people that are on the fence probably side with Bernie Sanders, actually are more likely to support him, at least in the primaries, and it sort of backfires against the Clinton crowd. Which is like, Hillary Clinton is legendarily corrupt. You probably heard that too much since my microphone's right there. I do apologize if that clank was a little bit loud. I got to keep that in mind. I've slightly changed my setup because of the fan noise from the laptop, so big issue. And I'll put it over here for now. And the cup joins the left-hand path. It's afraid of coronavirus too. 9 deaths now, actually. A lot less deaths than Hillary Clinton is responsible for. Hillary Clinton doesn't have self-awareness. But Bernie Sanders also doesn't have a fucking sense of humor. Did you again in MLK proceedings, Stair makes an ass of himself dancing too much. Bernie Sanders just stands there like this. Remember when BLM came and stole his microphone and he just sort of stood in the corner looking down very solemnly? That's basically what he is. I mean, having seen him before, I've seen him campaigning on the side of the road in Rutland for, I think that was in 2004 to 2004, 2006, somewhere around there. I think it was a Senate campaign at that point. I think he was out of the House. I watched his debate with Rich Tarrant. Tarrant seemed like a chucklehead. One of the things I analyzed was that Tarrant used fake defensive body language at times. Like when Sanders was asked a question about what he thought about Tarrant on, I think healthcare, if I remember correctly, and Rich Tarrant looked to the side and he sort of edges off the podium and puts his hands up. It was a joke, sort of like, uh-oh, Bernie Sanders is going to get fiery now, sort of a joke about his character. But it did make sense at the time. Bernie Sanders never laughed at that or anything else during the debate. And this was, back when I was in high school. This is like 2007 or something. So keep that in mind. It's been a while, a decade and a half almost. And then where else? I saw him coming out of the airport at one point. That was back when I was a liberal, so I said keep up the good work to him, actually. Be interesting if he knew that dude in the shitty leather coat would become, a fairly prominent voice among Vermonters and deeply oppose his socialist mentality. Interesting. Of course, he doesn't laugh there either. He's got like one staffer with him. He sort of like fast walks wherever he goes to. He's not like a normal dude when it comes to moving around and interacting with people. He's just not. That's true. But if Hillary Clinton had maybe fleshed that idea out a little bit more, like I am, it'd be a little bit different than saying nobody likes him. Well, that's not true. He's got millions of people that like him, but they don't like him for his personality. Well, some of them do because they're, I don't know, there's something a little bit wrong with some of these people. I hate to say it, if you like Bernie, that's fine, okay, you like his proposals or whatever. Some of you take it pretty far and are kind of cultish. It is really true. Even the Warrenites aren't quite as cultish anymore. Like for a while they were. The Kamala fans were the worst. In all honesty, the Kamala fans, absolutely the worst, and most of them now are Elizabeth Warren fans. But even her core fan base has never been as vicious as the Bernie bros. Some of these people have lost every marble in their goddamn fucking head and have no clue at this point what they're talking about. That's about all. Peace out.